I wanted to talk to you about sports betting apps in general. And we asked our audience, we've gotten some good comments in, so maybe some suggestions that we can read here on air as well. But your general feel about sports betting apps, the places that do it really well, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I have a top 3 list, so get out your pen and paper.
Okay. Live in studio with us now, professional gambler Steve Fezzik, 2-time winner of the Westgate SuperContest, and we've got like 8 million topics to discuss. I feel like I'm glad that we have you for a full half an hour so that we can get into some of them. How are you?
Excellent. First, shout out to Derek Stevens. You know how when someone does everything right, you just want to hug him. He's like, it's just tremendous in that you're just walking around. He loves this business. He loves being in the casino, interacting. You can see him at the Legacy Club. You'll see him out on the floor. And think about this. On these other properties that are being controlled by the suits and the like, oh my goodness, when it's time to go home, in 2 minutes and 2 seconds, they are in their cars and heading to the Ridges or wherever they live, as opposed to actually interacting with the client base.
Yeah. Steve, before we get into some of the other stuff that we have in the rundown, just real quick, it is combine season, right? And so they're heading into the combine. Do you pay attention at all to the combine? Does it mean anything to you whatsoever? Or is it kind of like, okay, too early to start thinking about football?
You know, I'm not embarrassed to say I don't even know if you can bet on the combine, okay? But if you can, I'm sure it's like super low limits, and I'm a bettor ultimately. So maybe I'll look at the information later, but I don't even look at it.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I was curious, like off-season storylines and stuff like that. We have all the news that comes out. They're trying to ban the tush push again for the second year. Do you just like squash all of that? It doesn't bring any attention to you. You're just focused on what you can bet the next day?
I'm a mercenary. I'm just looking to like have more in my accounts than I did the day before. And so, but by the way, you know, it's interesting, like the whole tush push and like the shift in MLB. Does it make sense to put in an unfair rule that makes the game better? Because I'd say they should be able to do the tush push, but I'm okay with them banning it because visually it's bad, I think.
I go both ways on the tush push. I'm kind of like, well, defend it though.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like goes both ways.
Well, because the argument is if it's not a skill play, then why can't everybody do it? Or then why can't everyone stop it? So clearly it is. I think there's value in it. Because that's the mindset that I come from, is that if you should be able to stop it then, right?
Yeah. Well, if everyone could do it, everyone would do it.
Right.
So like you said, there is some sort of skill to it.
But there are all kinds of loopholes, and we saw that with Washington. Obviously, if you have the ball in your own 1-inch line on offense, you should never snap the ball. You should constantly just take, you know, the penalty until the defense jumps offsides. And conversely, if the offense is on the 1-inch line, well, let's do Superman and just anticipate the count over and over. And I'm glad that they have a rule against that now.
Yeah.
So let's head into, as we get into Major League Baseball season, what are you looking into when you're trying to go in and, let's say, bet season win totals on a team? I assume you're going in, okay, they added this guy, they got rid of this guy, this is whatever, this rotation looks like this, and then you come to some sort of number that you feel is fair and compare it to what's available out there?
That is how, Matt, I'd say 90% of the people do it, and that's absolutely how to win, and it's not how I do it. All right? Which is interesting.
Let's talk. Yes, I love that.
I'm going to do a shout-out to the fellow's name. I hope it's okay. I talked to him, David Kaufman, and he owns a computer bag. He doesn't own a computer. All right? He's old school. He's about 110. All right? So he walks around. All right, he's not that old. And he's just got like papers everywhere. So he goes from property to property, can't name a player, and it's like, I ask him, oh, who do you have like during the NFL? And he's like, I got Green Bay under 10.5 and over 10 plus 105. All he's doing is looking for the market. He knows exactly to the decimal point what the market is. You name a team, and like in baseball, for instance, right? If you tell me the Phillies, I'll say their season win number is 90.5, but you can still get a 91 or a 90, etc. He knows that to the T. And then obviously, if there's any bad news that comes out or good news on a team, boom, he's ready to strike. Now I struck on the Dodgers because obviously absolutely loaded, and now they got the pitching. There's still 103.5 on the Dodgers. I'm pretty confident you're going to get a 105.5 at post. So why not load up and play the over 103.5 now, let the betting public bet it all up, and then 10 minutes before they start their first game, then if you want to bet against them, do it then.
Are there any other MLB futures that you have like gotten into so far, or the Dodgers the play? I
bet the White Sox to have a losing streak over 8.5 games. I love this bet.
Where at?
This was at Westgate, and it's at DraftKings. DraftKings still has it. So think about it. Last year, okay, the White Sox are going to be better. They won 41 games. There's over under 52.5. They lost 12, 14, 20. So they didn't lose 9 in a row. They lost 9 in a row, and then they lost 11 in a row concurrently, back to back. And so the idea that they're not going to have a 9-game losing streak is just crazy. If you spit it into a binomial distribution and you assume they win like 35% of the game, and spit it all out, the math will say emphatically that's a really good play. But I'm going to give out a play right now that's widely available. Well, it's you can play this at Caesars. You play at William Hill. It's a matchup bet. I love matchup bets when I like one team and don't like another team. And when I say that's probably a poor usage of pronouns. The guys that I respect, okay? And pretty much the market, I think, is high. I'm high on Atlanta and low on Philly. So I like Atlanta to go over their season win. I like Philly to go under. And the difference between their season wins is 1 to 1.5. There's a matchup right now. Atlanta Braves -0.5 season win number against Philly -115. Set that up. Go with that.
Yeah,
that's a one solid bet. That's my best bet today.
And if they both are not good, you still only need one of the teams to be better than the other one. So it's a little bit of a hedge there on the number as well.
And the beauty, absent injuries, which you never can be sure about, they're both playing 160 games. I got a sample size of 320. All right, anything could happen in a NFL season or a college football season. Teams only play 12 games. There's a 320 games. If I'm right, even if I'm unlucky, I'm going to cash my ticket.
Before we move on too much from the White Sox bet, because we are covering the AL Central in the second hour today.
Okay.
Obviously, their win total's low. It's like 52.5 or something like that. But I love that angle. For a team that last year had 11+ losing streaks, that's yes, they're going to be better this year, but how much better? Their win total kind of tells us not much.
And the irony here is that they actually are going to be way better than last year when they were historically the worst team in the MLB, but they're still horrendous.
They're so bad. Yes, they're so very bad.
And I bet the White Sox over 50.5, $80 fine, number that no longer exists. Okay, I'll chip it in for donuts. But I'm like, gosh, I'm so happy that I've got these losing streak bets. So when I'm staring at the stupid over 50.5 bet, and I got to watch the White Sox as a plus 320 dog each day, rooting for them to win. No, they can just lose 9 in a row, and I'll be happy.
So we talked already a ton about numbers and comparing all of that. Do you get into the stuff that you can't quantify with numbers? So we're talking Cy Young race, MVP, stuff that's voted on by human beings where you can't really attach a preseason number to that. I mean, you can do projections and whatnot, but at the end of the day, still takes humans to vote for these things.
I got a friend, Brad Feinberg, and he totally taught me how he's a pro bettor, how to do this. And I was always skeptical. And the bets that man has is just unbelievable. But obviously, when the markets are in fluctuation, when they're moving, that's when you can make the most money. Think about it. The second that Wemby goes out, that news breaks, and you have that window of literally seconds to get down on the number 2, the number 3, and the number 4 choice to be defensive player of the year in the NBA. And all these dudes are 10, 20, 30, 40 to 1 at that point. And well, here's the problem, though. When you make bets like that, sports books don't like it because you're really picking their pocket. You're getting the information before them. And so, a lot of it's kumbaya, and a lot of bettors and sportsbook operators are all huggy, and they go to dinner and not the guys I know. They're not. The odds makers want nothing to do with them going to dinner and being friends with them.
How quick now? Because I feel like we see it all the time that odds makers just take the board down immediately. It is very, very difficult to your point, get down on any of those numbers when news breaks because they're all seeing the same thing that 90% of the world is seeing.
That's what's great about sports like the WNBA or NASCAR. Or golf. If there's an injury to a golfer and there's matchups, you can get down. But if it's the NBA or the NFL, Stormy, as you know, it's so front and center. It's what everyone's talking about and following that instantaneously, yes, the game is off the board. Boom.
Yeah, it's the baseball stuff for me from a Cy Young perspective, from an MVP perspective, all that. I do the best that I can, but again, it's my projections, and it always seems like someone comes out of nowhere, other than the fact that, and I've asked this of multiple people so far, what is the point in betting against Shohei at this point? You're really just betting on injury, right?
Yeah. Well, and you're also following basic strategy. Basic strategy says take the most popular guys. A judge would probably apply, right, for home runs and how many he's going to hit. And 1 minute before the season starts, the day of the season, let the public bet him up as far as possible, and then fade him and bet against him. These are Super Bowl props, 101 in betting. You'd bet against Mahomes, right, a post, etc. So with Shohei, though, don't misinterpret me. You don't bet against him now. Bet on him now, if you like him, and look to play against him right at post if you are going to, fade him.
And we won't, because Shohei has had his fair share of misinterpreting, so we won't even go down that road. We're going to take a quick timeout. Plenty more still to come, though. Steve Fezzik going to hang around for one more segment and getting into more of the sports betting apps angle a little bit, and which ones sports books doing it great, which ones need some work, and maybe some ideas that we have to make these apps a little bit better. Don't go anywhere. How much do you look at betting splits? Is that something that you pay very close attention to? For me, it's more of a data point, but for a lot of professional gamblers, I imagine that is something you look at.
No, not very often. Well, other than we want to look at, is there a clear-cut team that the public loves? Mm-hmm. And in general, usually that's going to move the market such that there'll be value on the other side. So that certainly is the case. We'll look at that. But frankly, it's pretty obvious. But look at the NFL season. If you're looking at those splits, you're bankrupt right now, because the favorites across the board covered 53.5%. And so week after week, the experts, would come in and say, hey, you've got to go ahead and play Tennessee. But Tennessee has no special teams, and all they do is turn the ball over, and they've got good stats, and they never cover, and we're broke because of it.
You're also in a different position moving those numbers before we even see the betting splits later. So there's that.
I mean, it's a tool, but the one thing I'll say, like, number one a piece of advice I'd give out, and this applies to me too, there's 10 different ways to skin the cat. So when someone says, hey, I only look at this or I only do this, that's rarely correct. So usually I should use betting splits. I probably should do that more, but it would not be my major sword in my arsenal.
Yeah, it's tough. You don't know when the bet came in at what number and whatever and all the different things and stuff like that. And so that's where it can get really tricky.
So a line is 3.25, okay? And South Point is 3 and Circa is 3.5. And Circa, if you look at their betting slips, they're like, every sharp we have likes the dog. And if you ask South Point, they're like, every sharp we like likes the favorite, because no favorite's going to take plus. No better worth its salt is ever going to play +3 in a game line, 3.25, split between the two numbers.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If you could have if you could click on it and then it showed every single bet that came in or something, then you could fish through and see it came in at this number and then that's why I did this and whatever. That would be useful. But if it's just a general pot all thrown together, it's kind of like,
right.
It's fun. It's fun. It's more of a fun. It's fun for people.
Well, and like I said, for me, it's always just another data point. It's just like something to reference and see what the larger perspective is in my mind. I wanted to talk to you about sports betting apps in general, and we asked our audience, we've gotten some good comments in, so maybe some suggestions that we can read here on air as well, but your general feel about sports betting apps, the places that do it really well, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I have a top 3 list, so get out your pen and paper, go ahead, as you're driving, get out your pen and paper, get ready to write, here we go. Number 1.
We like to say pull over on the side of the road.
No, just go ahead.
We like to say just pull over.
No, go ahead and drive. You can multitask, because this is going to be simple. Number 1 is Circa. Number 2, Circa. And number 3 is Circa. Okay. So why am I so high on Circa? Well, okay. Westgate and South Point have apps that are really good, and you can navigate them, and I would recommend them as well. I also personally like the Win. They let me bet. But the combination of really high limits, and these other places don't have high limits, and if you are a good bettor, they'll scale you back. They'll still let you play, mostly. But they won't let you play much, whereas Jeff Benson and his folks are letting you play at high limits on the Super Bowl. Boom. If I want to bet $300,000, take my little finger, click on Eagles. Now, if I wanted to bet $1 million, I'd have to go to the window. But you get the idea. And just homework for all of the CEOs of all these companies out there. I want you to go home and I want you to get the app for each and every property in town. And I want you just to bet a 2-team parlay in college basketball. Just pick your favorite 2 teams and how much time it will take you. Maybe I'm just a little challenged, but when I go into like the Caesars app, the William Hill app, the MGM app, I feel like I got to be like an MIT grad to figure out how to do something new, like to play a parlay or to play a teaser. It's just so complicated compared to, for whatever reason, the programmers at Circa, Westgate, and South Point, really good with what they do. The Win app is quite good as well, lower limits for most people, though.
So you like So you're more of a simplicity guy when it comes to the app type of stuff.
Yeah, what's happening, and to be fair, there's so many more options. I'm sure the Caesars people would say, look, Steve.
Because I was going to say, the devil's advocate side of that is, but the menu is so much smaller and the whatever and all, stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So it'd be like someone trying to make a reservation like at a hotel, and if there was only one option to make a reservation, of course it's faster than if they're giving me like every option. Like, how the heck do I get to that Circa swim fight? If you've never been to that Circa swim during March Madness at twilight, oh my goodness, something else.
Something that we got from one of the comments at Scola_10, which I completely agree with, is how about a separate open bets tab for futures? Or I was even saying, like, yes, your futures bets, if they could be just separate in general, but also if they could be separated by sport would be nice. Sometimes you're looking for stuff and you're just like scrolling endlessly to find what you're looking for because so many people bet those preseason bets and then they're all mixed up and jumbled.
Oh, and I'm such a rotation number guy. In fact, I would far be for me to be, I'd be terrible to be in charge of programming. If someone comes on a Saturday and like, I like Elon. It's like, doesn't tell me what time it starts. It doesn't tell me what the rotation number is, and I'm like, you're fired. Okay, there's 7 pages. I don't even know if Elon's on the extra boards or the main board,
right.
And it's like, you gotta give me the rotation number, and I don't know how they do it when you go to the window, like during March Madness. If I can't just say game 8, 4, 5. How are they even going to? Are they looking up all these teams? And how slow is the line going to be? My goodness.
I actually really like that suggestion, mainly from a standpoint. You should be logging all your bets as it is anyway. You should be doing all of that. But given our situation currently here, where we only have one book that allows us to do anything on the computer, so everything has to go through the app. It would be nice if I wasn't in front of my computer to be able to log in and be like, where did I have that futures bet? And at least I would have a futures tab, right? And like I go in and be like, okay, boom, I can see these are my futures bets at Circa, these are my futures bets at MGM or whatever it might be. I actually really like that suggestion. If I could file them away, right?
Maybe I'm just challenged. I have trouble finding like what's pending when I use the Caesars app and the like. And if I put in, if I'm dumb enough to put in a parlay and then the line moves, trying to the only way I can remove it from my parlay is to put another team into the parlay because I just can't find out how to delete it. So I'm sure I'll get a tweet storm. Everyone will explain, you're a dummy, here's how to do it.
No. I know a lot of sportsbooks too have added a search functionality, which is nice and is helpful, but a lot of them don't really work either. And like that becomes its own new frustration where you do go to the search tab and you want to search a player, for instance, and like that nothing's going to pop up if you've searched that player.
And there's a whole lot of teams in Tennessee and Arkansas. It's like amazing. It's like if I put in Tennessee and boom, there's 9 choices with teams with Tennessee.
Every directional college in Michigan that there is, like the Northeast, Central, Western, Southern state of Michigan and all those numbers as well. All right, before we let you out of here, you said you had a college basketball nugget.
So just in general, when you're betting the futures, because we got March Madness coming up.
Yes.
All right. So I would encourage everyone, like, I hear all the time, just pick a team. I was just arguing with Todd Wishnev. I love Todd Wishnev, but he's like, he's like, I just pick an obscure team like VCU or St. Mary's. All they got to do is make the Sweet 16 and I can earn off of it, which he's probably correct, but maybe not earn nearly as much as you think because, like, think about that, St. Mary's. Even if they make the Sweet 16, they're going to have like a 1/3 chance to win their next 4 games. So 1/3, 1/9, 127. That's 81-1, and they got to make the Sweet 16, which they're probably 50-50 on to make. So I would encourage everyone, don't look into the futures market. Only one team's going to win, and it's going to be very hard to find value there. I would much more, bet the games game by game, and I really feel adamant that that's the way to go. One tip with conference tournaments about to start, I might add, all these god-awful teams that never, ever win, like, the Kinesises or the Miami of Floridas. It's amazing how well they do in the tournament when all of a sudden you reset. And the team they're playing is like, okay, we win this game, and then we're playing these guys the next game, whereas the bad team is all in, for a Mississippi Valley State or whoever.
So is that a game-by-game too, or do you ever bet a conference tournament winner because it's fewer games?
It's rare. There are some times where there's paths in the conference tournament where someone has a great draw, but most of the time I find it's because they get like a double bye. It's you're looking for that team that just has the cupcake draw of all draws to be able to get there. If they have to play 4 games, and let's face it, like you look at the SEC tournament, every team has a big incentive to lose. Who wants to play like through that gauntlet before the March Madness? Any sharp team like Florida should try to find a way to exit by the second round.
As someone who has a Florida future, even though I know you say don't do it, who has a Florida future for them to win the national championship and Final Four, I would really like them to not be too beat up in the SEC tournament.
Bold prediction,
nice.
Florida's going to win the tournament.
Oh, I would love it, Steve. Don't threaten me with a good
look
time.
Look at that. Wow. You get some validation right here.
Needed it.
Needed
it. Great conversation. Appreciate your time, Steve. This is great.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. I love our sessions.
Also, follow him on X as well because the tweets are fast and furious each and every day at Fezzik Sports.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.